Um, so hey guys, welcome to my um, tech talk, and today's topic is on drones. So can everyone see my screen fine?
Yep.
Okay. So so before I actually dive into the topic of drones, I would like to give a short introduction about myself. So my name is Grace, and I'm an international student from Beijing, China. And I was born and raised in Beijing. And I'm currently a rising junior at Notre Dame studying computer science. And if you guys look at the two pictures on the left, it's actually me and my friends in middle school and me and my classmates in high school. And my high school was the school was actually located right in the middle of the city. And the two pictures on the right are my cat, and I think she's very cute. So I just want to show her off. So now let's actually dive into the topic. So this is the outline for today's presentation. So firstly, I will touch on the history of drones, and which mainly focus on military drones. And then I will talk a bit of commercial drones and its application to different industries. And finally, the security concerns. And last but not the least, I will touch a bit about hobby drones, just showing you guys the photos taken by the people who likes hobby drones and how fascinating it is. So now let's actually dive into the history of drones. And drones has another more official name called unmanned aerial vehicles. So the definition of the UAVs, commonly known as drones, is actually pretty broad. It is understandable considering the wide range of configuration that exists. As I just mentioned, we have military, commercial, and hobby drones. So in practice, any aerial drones that does not rely on a human to operate it for flight and could be either autonomously or remotely operated fits into the definition of drones. And drones really range in size. We have those like super large military drones, which has the wingspan of like 200 feet. But we also have those really small commercial drones, which are only inch wide. And besides their size, their range of flights also varies. Like some commercial drones are being confined to like only a few feet away from the operator, while our military drones could fly 17,000 miles without even stopping. So likewise, there's also a huge variation in the maximum flight altitude. So military drones could reach a maximum flight of 65,000 feet, while our commercial drones or hobby drones might be only able to reach a few feet. So now let's actually look into the history. So before I did my presentation, I thought drone is a fancy new technology that emerged in 21st century, but I was actually completely wrong. Drones has been around for centuries and were initially solely used for military purposes. And some of them are not even like the drones we know nowadays at all. So for example, the earliest record of the drones dates back to 1849 when Austrians were attacking the Italian city of Venice. And what they did is that they used a bunch of unmanned balloons that were loaded with explosive. So it's actually just balloons, and the balloons is inflated with lighter than air gas, like hot air, hydrogen, helium, and that has a bomb attached to it. So what it did is that they just sent out these balloons and hoping that some of them will actually land on the city that they are attacking. I thought it was pretty funny in the beginning, and it turns out it didn't work that well because some of the balloons even drifted backwards. People have no actual control on the balloons, they rely solely on the weather. But this actually gives us a good foundation about what we are looking for. People started to realize that, oh, we might need this thing that can fly and could bomb the enemy city for us. So even though this is very far from what we are expecting from drones, this lays a very good foundation. So also in 1917, British military was able to capture a lot of sky view maps of the German trench fortification in the region. And at first, I thought this was very fancy as well. But what they basically did is that they sent a photographer in the air and took pictures of enemies' fortifications. Or like in later ages, they're able to simply have like a camera on board. But this is still very far from what we are expecting because in the early stages, they might even have a pilot and photographer. We don't want anyone on our drones, but now we have two people. But as we can see, this also lays a good foundation, and we start to realize that, oh, we might want this kind of flying thing that could take picture for us at the same time. So actually in 1916, shortly after what British military did, US Army was able to build a drone called Catering Bug. It's a flying bomb. It could fly up to 74 miles with 264 pounds of explosive. So how this drone works is that there is a mechanical system that could track how far our drones has flown. And before taking off, technicians are able to determine the distance that this drone is supposed to fly by taking account like the wind speed, like the direction along the flight path. So with this total distance in mind, they will know the number of engine revolutions needed for the bug. So once the maximum value is reached, the engine shuts off and our drone is forced to land. So as we can see, that is already like a huge advancement, but it's not very ideal because what if we meet some unexpected weather condition? We cannot change the distance or we cannot ask our drone to dodge like anything that's unexpected in a way. So in 1930 or in the late 1930s, the US Navy was able to make a further advancement. So this new drone is called Yize N2C2. What it is able to do is that we are able to remotely control it from another aircraft in real time. So this is very revolutionary. So the US Army think this is very good and started to adopt this concept and started improving it. But in the very beginning, they just thought like these drones are flying around. It will be a good target to use for practice shooting in the Air Force. However, as America was preparing for war, they actually realized that these drones has a great value if they are being redirected to combat use. So actually in 1939, we have this first mass-produced OQ-2 radio plane. So this is the first drone ever to be mass-produced and put in use into military combat. And later, we also have a follow-on version, the OQ-3, which became the most widely used target drone in US service, with over 9,400 being built during World War II. So now we could see that Army is started to recognize the value of drones in combat and are start to incorporate them into combat. And actually, US is not the only country who recognized the value of drones. Israel was also really interested. So in 1970s, Israel has one drone called Mastiff, which is a drone they already have. And with their increased interest in battlefield drones, and they start building another drone called IAI Scott. So, and also, ever since 1970s, they have been trying to incorporate these drones in their combats. And it was actually proven to be a very successful strategy in the later war, the 1982 Lebanon war between Israel and Syria. So Syria has those surface-to-air missiles, which were heavily sighted in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley. But Israel was able to destroy all the sites with its surface-to-air missiles because they used their drones to take pictures of the site and to determine their exact location and develop a strategy to actually destroy all the surface-to-air missile sites. So now we can see this actually ties back to what Britain was doing back then with actually sending a photographer or like a camera on board. Now we are also using the same strategy, but now the drones could do it for us without using more people than we have to. So in 1986, US and Israel, both countries really liked drones and really incorporated drones and their military use, worked together to develop a new drone. So now instead of like developing drones in own country, countries are even starting to work together for a more advanced technology. So military drones has obviously became more important. And in 1990, miniature and micro drones were introduced. And also in 2000, US deployed a Predator drone in Afghanistan while searching for bin Laden. So up to this point, you guys might notice that the drone history is actually packed with military stuff. It is really different from the commercial drones that I was thinking about getting. And even though most of the notable drone flights, like up to this point, is military purposes, I believe that technology will continue to advance and commercial drone will eventually receive more attention. And actually in 2006, the first use of drone for non-military purposes has started, and in the same year, Federal Aviation Administration issued its first commercial drone permit. But it's actually not until 2014 until Amazon announced their plan for Amazon Prime, Amazon Prime, Air Prime, Amazon Prime Air, that people actually notice the potential application of commercial drones. So from this point, we will step away from all the military drone stuff and look more into the rise of commercial drones. And also, even though the use of drones in commercial application has the potential to dramatically alter several industries and even change our attitudes and behaviors regarding their impact on our daily lives, we actually didn't really pay much attention to it in these days. So I really like to discuss a bit in this part, like what application we have, and of course, the concerns we might have for privacy. And actually, commercial drones, with their ability to collect data and transport loads, drones might be even reshaping the ways they think and feel about our physical environment, but at the same time bringing new concerns. So that will be something we'll be looking into in the next several slides. So before I dive into discussion on drones' impact and their application, I like to show you guys a very basic design of commercial drones. I'm saying it's a very basic design because commercial drones, obviously, they might have their own focus. Like some of them might specialize in taking good photos, while some might specialize in carrying goods. So this basic design is really what like all commercial drones should have. And then they will add on their specialties to this. So this basic design has a microcontroller that acts like a flight control. So then we usually have 4 but up to 8 motors and propellers. And then we have a radio receiver, a electronic speed control, and a battery. All of these will be built on a light plastic or a metal frame. In addition to this, gyroscopes and other sensors will also be added to increase the mid-air stability of the drones. And a GPS device can also be added on for navigation. And most of the drones also carry a camera for aerial imagery and gimbal for added image stability. And also, if you want to add more sensors, it's still possible, but please remember that this all comes as a price of increasing drone weight, and we actually don't want that. And there are already companies in the market like DJI, 3D Robotics, and Parrot, and some other leading hardware companies. And they're already in the business of sales, including both assembling drones and drones components. So after this very brief overview about what a commercial drone structure look like, let's look a bit on the discussion on economic, environmental, and social impacts of drones. So previously, because we all know military drones has been such an important part, or actually the solely focus in before, the discussion is actually centered on military drones. So for military drones, ever since their emergence, the use of drones in combat zones has been heavily debated, and the conversation mainly focused on their ethics, effectiveness, transparency, and whether they're legal or not. So human rights organizations criticize drones that they are actually unable to discern whether this target is intended or unintended. But the official stance of government is definitely in favor of the drones. They claim that drones are able to prevent casualties by providing accurate civilian information and precise strike capabilities. So now let's shift our focus to commercial drones. Like even though commercial drones
Sorry to interrupt. Are we still on slide 6?
Wait. Oh, I think we should be on slide 10. What do you guys see now?
Oh, now we see slide 10, but we were on slide 6 for a while.
Oh, were you guys able to see this?
No. But
Oh,
it looks cool.
okay. Sorry about that.
No, not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing important. Okay. So yeah, I will pay attention to that. So back to slide 10. So even though commercial drones owe much of their development to military counterparts, most designs do not resemble what military drones have. Because like commercial drones are typically, they're built on a small platform, and they use cheap and easily available components, and they could usually only lift up to average of 4 pounds. It's very different from those huge and expensive military drones that we have. So because of this, their creation has not been a subject of discussion, and it has not played a very important role in our society yet. So we haven't paid much attention to it. But now as we see the trend, I think it might be interesting to just go ahead and consider some of the impacts drones might have in our life. Just like take internet, for example, like it did not just allow us to share information faster and cheaper, but it's also completely changed the way we can see and use information. So drone might play a similar role, but I personally feel it's very hard to envision at this point. So a bit about economic implications. So drone right now has a very promising market with estimated to be 127 billion across a variety of industries. And people believe that drones will have a very positive effect on agriculture and infrastructure, because drones are able to cover a large areas, so it will be very suitable for spreading seeds on the ground or watering all the plants. And besides that, drones also might have positive environmental impact, because drones is powered by batteries. Drones are more environmental friendly than delivery trucks. So if delivered drones actually becomes a very important part of our life, it might adversely hurt vehicle industry, but it will be actually more environmental friendly. And social impacts, of course, social impacts, there are like more superficial ones that we can take pretty picture and put them on Instagram. But also there are deep discussion, and people are really concerned about like safety issues, which is something that I'll discuss further in the upcoming slides. So now I will talk about bit drones and different industries. Are you guys able to see the 4 pictures on this slide?
Yep.
Okay, nice. So since drones have the ability to carry multiple sensors, transmitter, and imaging equipment, the use of drones is actually ranges from entertainment to agriculture and from construction to delivery markets. So nowadays, drones are already being used to like survey crops, like rescue operation, count wildlife, or like keep track of animal populations. These seems to be pretty random, but they are actually really important, and drones is a very good way to deal with this stuff. And also like land surveying, like survey forest fire, and inspect oil pipelines, power lines, and other remote infrastructure. And besides the application and agriculture I just mentioned, drones has a great advantage that they will be able to go into places that humans are not able to enter, and actually give medical supplies and drugs to inaccessible location. So that might be something come in handy when there's a rescue mission or we just need to deliver something to some place that is hard to find. So that being said, commercial drones has great potential and they are cheap and easily available and can be deployed across many industries to perform relatively complex and expensive and dangerous tasks. But they do have drawbacks like limitation in battery lives and lack of proper regulation, but we can see it's a promising trend. And actually on this slide, I really want to talk a bit more about arts and photography application of drones. Like as for art, if you guys would like to look at the big billboard, it's actually a work by graffiti artist Kazu, who is the first person credited with using a drone and tagging of billboard. So what happened basically is like back in 2015 in New York City, he used a very small and customized drone and with a paint sprayer, and he just used that drone to mark this billboard image with that shaky red stripe. So this is revolutionary because he's the first person to do so and to incorporate drones in his painting. And ever since then, he's been very interested in using drones as a paint. So what he did is like he guides them before the canvas and he has some degree of control, but he can't maintain strict aim. So we have that very shaky, smelly face on the right corner that looks like it's crying. So on the left side, we have those two very futuristic photo. It's actually the work of photographer Ruben Wu, who represents another kind of exploration. So what he did is like he basically used drones, like custom modified drones, and he used other cameras to capture the light path created by drones. And so it looks like geometry shapes hovering above landscapes, and it's very pretty and unique in a way. So people has been taking notice that drones could be incorporated into this creative representation. So while photography and arts are really cool and they look really pretty, I like to talk a bit about more practical application, like something might relate a bit tighter to our life, and that would be films. So ever since Hollywood was granted the right to use drone to film scene, they have those specialized high definition imaging drones that gives us very good experience of this kind of scenes. So for us, like, and our understanding of what drones can do is actually mostly informed by the way that they're used to make movies or like television shows and commercials. And the FAA has decided that drones in filmmaking could be legal. And a lot of the aerial footage captured of drones has become so common that we just take it for granted. We don't really notice it. So like in the relatively early days of drone use, filmmakers realized that drones could really come in handy like for those close-up action shots. So for example, in the 2012 James Bond Skyfall, the opening motorcycle scene we could clearly see that it's shot from an upper angle like by drones. And also in 2013, The Wolf of Wall Street, we are able to take a peek into their luxurious party from like high up angle thanks to drones, and we really feel like we are actually peeking into the character's life, and I think that is very cool. But producers are not satisfied with just using drones for shooting these images, and they have been looking for more creative application. So for example, in the 2012 Jurassic Park, a drone mounted camera, they basically swoops low over a crowd of people who are being attacked by pterosaurs. So what it did, like we are kind of like the reptiles, so we could see the angle of reptiles when it's swooping lower, and that is actually really fun. And besides creative application, some of the filmmakers or producers have also decided to address issues that drones may bring along. So of course, the security issues that we are all concerned about. So in one episode of Black Mirror, for example, characters lost their privacy when a blackmailer films them through with a drone. So as audiences, we'll be able to see the scene through both like regular cameras, but also through drone's lens. And that really makes us reflect on how vulnerable we are if somebody is trying to steal our privacy away with drones. And finally, we came to Amazon Prime Air, the drone delivery system that it actually anticipates package to arrive within 30 minutes or less. This program has yet been executed, but it's still in development. But actually, when I was doing research, I found out like the operations was actually expected to begin in late 2019. But as for now, I don't see any Amazon Prime Air or Amazon drones flying around. So actually the reason that they were not able to deploy this was because the heavy regulation of Federal Aviation Administration. So basically FAA was super concerned about privacy and safety issue, and they are really careful with whether commercial drones should be used in daily life. So basically, Amazon's effort to launch drones delivery system has been delayed as a result of FAA regulation. So as for now, drones in the US are regulated up to a height of 400 feet of airspace. Like really, FAA is really concerned about airspace and ground safety, and they're even reluctant to provide license to allow drone testing in the US. So for Amazon, because they met obstacles in terms of drone testing. They've also tested in other countries, like back in 2016, they were actually able to run successful tests in Cambridge, England, and prior to 2015, before they are granted the right to actually test drones in US, they have been testing drones in Canada. So personally for me, I really hope to see Amazon Prime Air launch because having like stuff delivered in 30 minutes is a very promising number. But as we can see now, under heavy regulations, Amazon still has a lot of things to figure out before they actually put into use drone delivery. So we've already talked about a lot of application, or some of the application drones could have. So just wondering, where is all this application of drones leading us to? So even with all the heavy regulation that FAA has, drone manufacturers, service providers, and platform integrators are still seriously considering the business potential across these application types. And also, like I'm a very clear example because when I think of drones, I don't think about military drones. I think it's about commercial drones or maybe hobby drones. The representation of drones in popular media has already diversified from military drones to consumer ones. And this also shows that the growing demand of consumer drones in the market. And also, with the application of drones, this will definitely change the industry landscapes in terms of a lot of ways, like safety, speed, and cost. For example, like drones are already disrupting the use of helicopters because they could basically perform the same thing and they don't need a pilot. And also the cost of flying a drone is only 1/10 of that flying a helicopters. So people definitely see drones as a better solution to a lot of things we have for now. Also, drone has application in large factories, transportation, and drones can operate in limited noise compared to a real aircraft. So as we can see now, people are already considering ways that drones could replace the habits or the things we use nowadays. But even though there's still a long way to figure out. So now we finally come to the discussion of security concerns, which is something that I've mentioned over and over in the previous slide, and is also a big concern of FAA. That's why they've decided to not let Amazon advance that Prime Air service so fast. So currently, the use of drones, like in commercial way and in civilian airspace, has triggered concerns mainly about challenges to safety and security. So these concerns are directed to both technology and the user. And concerns regarding the technology center around like battery life, lift capacity, and reliability of the drones. One of the prime criticism of flying commercial drones is that if it's flying in public and there's a small glitch in their system, or even just one small mistakes, and if it just crashes in the air, it threatens people's health, well-being, and property of the public. I believe it won't be a pretty scene if you're just happily walking down a road and some drone just crashes in front of us, or some drone wasn't able to hold on their packet properly and the package just land on our face. Those are actually all practical concerns that we need to have. Other than that, it's also, and furthermore, what if the drones land on like public property? It will be a disaster if the drone crashes into electricity poles or wanders into airport and other protected airspace that it shouldn't have been. It could actually result in more dangerous consequences and maybe even put lives in danger. And these fears are actually not unfounded. These things actually happened when people were still testing drones. And besides that, drones, like especially commercial drones, their GPS system is actually easily hackable. So what people do is that hackers simply send like a strong but fake GPS signals toward the drone, and this will override the programmed directions, and the drone will listen to the detector, either maybe crash or fly to the detector. And right now, there's not a good solution to that because it's really hard to trace who actually sent out this false signal and to prove the origin of the navigation signals. In military GPS, people use like an extra encryption to ensure safety. But if this encryption is actually applied to commercial drones, commercial drones will become much more expensive and people will be less inclined to actually using it. Also, use of drones in law enforcement is also debatable. FBI has been using drones to catch criminals, but there are criticisms saying that they are not just using drones to catch criminals, but like, for example,
hey Grace, what slide are you supposed to be on right now?
Wait, clock?
What slide?
Oh, more security concerns?
Okay, got it. Great.
Okay, so
we were stuck on the earlier slide for a little bit. It might just be my Wi-Fi though.
Okay, sorry about that.
That looks good. Keep it up. I'm loving it.
Okay, so for security concerns, people criticize, like FBI was actually spying on the protesters held for the protest held in Baltimore over the death in police custody of Freddie Gray. So as we can see, drones could really hurt public privacy because they could just be hiding like in a space much higher than us and quietly spying us without us noticing it. So that really is a concern. So aside from all of these logistical and privacy concerns, wildlife such like birds also face higher risk with greater number of aerial vehicles sharing the space with them. They run into higher possibility of crashing into them. So this is actually all of the security concern I have for now, but I'm definitely open for discussion after the presentation ends because the security concern of drones is a very important topic and there are a lot of parts to be considered into it. So now is our last part about hobby drones. So hobby drones obviously is a very light topic, but the reason why people keep decided to pick up hobby drone is basically because they are interested. Like firstly, hobby drones can make great social media photos. Pretty sure the aerial photos will beat a photo taken like our normal iPhone or Samsung photo in no time. And also, nature lovers will love to see nature from a different perspective through the use of drones. And thirdly, people might simply enjoy flying in drones. Like it will be like there's no specific reason. People just like sitting there and like flying the drone around, or maybe like see what the drones were able to see in the city. So so as we can see, like hobby drone is mostly used for photo taking, and the hobby of drone photo taking has grown all over the world. So if you guys could see the three photos I put there is actually from a contest called Sky Pixel Photo Contest, and it recognized the most incredible photos taken by drones last year. It actually accepts both like professional submission, but also submission from amateur people. I picked people who are just enthusiastic because we just want to consider it as a hobby. So SkyPixel is an aerial photo and video sharing platform. It received like 44,000 submissions from 141 countries in order to select winners. So the left one actually won the third prize, and it's actually taken in Vietnam of farmers raising ducks in big numbers. Like the photographer just think it's a really pretty scene. Like he actually figured it out when he was like using his drone to observe the river, and he just happened to think this is really pretty, and he just took a picture of it. And the middle one is called Dancer. It's a minimalist aerial photo. I think it's very visually pleasing to look at because it has those neatly cut squares. And the right one is one of the 12 panel shots of the drone images. So basically the photographer was just randomly traveling with friends, and he think the scenery was really breathtaking. So he just took out his drone to take a picture of this place. So hobby drones are obviously very relaxed, and people mainly use hobby drones because they are really interested in photo taking. And also hobby drones are much cheaper and much much easier to obtain in comparison to the other two drones, and they are the ones that is easiest to implement or make or control as well. So this will be my last slide. So in conclusion, drones have transformed from solely military use to commercial use and hobby use. The transition has opened up a lot of new possibilities and potentials, but also brings along concern at the same time. It'll be really interesting to see how drones will be changing our life gradually, because right now we don't have too much drone presence, but I'm pretty sure it will be a trend in the future. So thank you so much, you guys, for attending my tech talk, and that is all I have for today.
Well, that was pretty cool.
Yay.
Pretty cool, Grace.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thank you. Sorry about the screen issue. I guess it doesn't sync very well, Canva.
That's fine.
That's fine. I was just gonna ask something. Have you ever seen the drones that have like that race? There's like racing drones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff's so cool.
Have you
Oh,
ever
really?
seen those?
I actually didn't.
Yeah. I think I haven't really seen. I saw them. I think it was a YouTube video like a year ago, but I like remember just like this little. Well, they're not even like that little, but it's like. I think they take it very seriously. Like they're trying to start a competition. Like it looks like Rayan knows what I'm talking about.
Well, I've just watched videos, and it's like super intense. Like they go like
Right.
really fast and like just like super tight navigation and everything too. It's like precision and everything, but it's like it's super cool to watch.
Yeah, I should probably check that out. Yeah. Grace.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna stop the recording. Just so y'all know, but I gotta figure out how to do that. There we go. Okay.